Disney World can be very complicated, and I truly believe that you can plan an entire Walt Disney World vacation in under 30 minutes if you follow these simple 7 steps. For those of you that are new here, I'm Matt, a Disney authorized vacation planner, founder of adventuresofaDisneydad.com, and host of the Adventures of a Disney Dad podcast. I've been planning a lot of vacations at Walt Disney World and Universal destinations, and I have seen it all. I provide free vacation planning services, so if you're interested in having me plan your Disney vacation, hit the link in the description and I'll be happy to plan your next Walt Disney World vacation. Here is a quick breakdown of how you can plan your Walt Disney World vacation in 7 easy steps. The first step is to pick your dates and set your budget. If your dates are flexible, your budget becomes more important. When you're picking your dates, you want to consider things like crowds, holidays, events, weather, all those things that can have a major impact on your Disney vacation. If crowd levels are important, you want to try to avoid weekends and major holidays, major school breaks, like winter break between Christmas and New Year's is the most busy time at Walt Disney World. You also want to try and avoid things like spring break or as soon as school gets out in June. If weather is important to you, you may look at the end of October, November, December, early January, so you can try and avoid some of the heat of August or some of the rain of September. Once you've selected your dates and set your budget, it's time to move on to step 2, which is going to be to select your Disney resort. I would encourage you to make sure that you do not stay off property. There are a lot of perks to being on Disney resorts. We can talk about those in a different video, but most importantly, the price difference is not going to be that drastic between an on-site property at Disney and off-site at Walt Disney World. Back in the day, maybe that would have been the case, but nowadays, a Walt Disney World vacation package, the majority of the cost is in the tickets, not in the room. For example, in 2025, there are Walt Disney World value resorts as low as $117 a night. The room rate is not the problem. When you're picking a Walt Disney World resort, you have to pick between 3 categories: value, moderate, and deluxe. They go up significantly in price from value to deluxe, and the most important thing that you want to consider is how much time you're going to be spending at your resort. If you're planning on spending all of your time in the parks, you're not going to be using the pool, you're not going to be using the resort restaurants, then you probably want to be on the lower end at the value and moderate level so that you can save more money and put it elsewhere in your vacation. And the opposite is also true. If you plan on spending more time at the resort, more time at the pools, more time at your resort restaurants, then you'll want to move up to maybe the moderate or the deluxe category. Obviously, if your budget allows, you can stay at whatever resort you want, but you'll also want to consider transportation. When you look at Disney resorts, the transportation between the parks and the resorts is really important. Some of the value resorts may have Skyliner access, making it easier and more fun to get to Epcot and Hollywood Studios, while some of the resorts only have bus transportation. So if you're at Coronado Springs, a moderate resort, for example, you can only take the bus to each of the theme parks versus an Art of Animation or a Pop Century, which are value resorts that are on the Skyliner that may have better access to different resorts, restaurants, and the theme parks. Once you pick your dates and you found your hotel that you'd like, you want to make sure that you check for any discounts. Step 3 is going to be to plan your park days and buy your tickets. Tickets are going to come as part of your Disney Resort vacation package, so they'll come with your room and your tickets included all in the same bundled price. The biggest thing for you to remember when you're buying your park tickets is the more tickets you buy, the lower the price per ticket. So for example, if you're buying 2 days of tickets, the price may be $150 per adult, but if you buy 3 days of tickets, it may be $140 per day per adult. I typically encourage families not to buy tickets for travel days unless you know that you're going to be arriving very early in the morning or leaving very late at night, but that's completely up to you and how you want to plan your vacation. I often recommend a minimum of 3 nights when going to Walt Disney World. Obviously, if your dates and your budget don't allow, that's understood. Try and get at least 3 full park days and maybe 1 resort day if you can pull it off. There are 4 main theme parks at Walt Disney World: Magic Kingdom, Hollywood Studios, Epcot, and Animal Kingdom. You'll base your park days on how much time you want to spend in each park, and you'll pick the park based on what you want to do for your family. If you only have 3 days of tickets and you want to visit all 4 theme parks, you'll need to add on Park Hopper for an additional cost. The way I look at the theme parks for someone that's going to Walt Disney World for the first time is that Magic Kingdom is what you think of when you go to Walt Disney World. It's Cinderella's castle, it's all of your favorite rides, all of your favorite characters, fireworks. It's really a mandatory stop for any Walt Disney World vacation. Epcot is going to be the spot that you want to go for any special events, festivals, great food, and most important for children is going to be for character meets. There you can pretty much meet every Walt Disney World princess at Epcot. There's a lot of really good character meets, and then obviously the best thrill ride at Walt Disney World, Guardians of the Galaxy, Cosmic Rewind is also at Epcot, and it's really a can't miss attraction, but it also might be one that you choose to skip if you only have a 2 or 3 day vacation. Hollywood Studios is a must for young kids that love Toy Story or anyone that loves Star Wars. Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is a can't miss spot. Toy Story Land has Slinky Dog Dash, which is a great intro roller coaster for young children coming to Walt Disney World for the first time. And they also have great character meets as well. Animal Kingdom unfortunately gets skipped the most for people that are coming to Walt Disney World for only 3 or 4 days. I would call it a world-class zoo, but that's also, like, for anybody that's a Walt Disney World fan, that's going to get me in trouble. I love Animal Kingdom. It's one of my favorite places to go when I go to Disney, but it's also not for everybody. If you love Avatar, there's a great Pandora World of Avatar area that you or your kids will love, but it also ends up being the one that gets skipped the easiest. It has the shortest amount of hours, the lowest number of attractions, and if you can manage to see it, you should definitely check it out. Spend a brief amount of time looking at the attractions, the dining, and the characters that you and your family want to prioritize on your vacation, and set your parks based on that. Step number 4 is going to be to book your Walt Disney World dining reservations. Dining reservations open 60 days in advance of your vacation check-in day at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. The popular dining experiences like Cinderella's Royal Table, Be Our Guest, Space 220, Topolino's Terrace are going to all be gone almost immediately after your booking window opens. So make sure you have a priority list set of what you want to book and be ready to book it right at 7 a.m. This is a good reminder to use a Disney authorized travel planner. We book all of your dining reservations for you. So you don't have to wake up at 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. Central Time like me. I will book them all for you, and we know how to navigate the system quickly. Step number 5 is to understand multi-pass, Premier Pass, and Lightning Lanes. Put simply, this is the line skipping service at Walt Disney World. Multi-pass is the entry level. It could be anywhere from $15 to $35 per person per day to skip a limited number of attractions. Single pass is going to be limited to specific attractions at each park that you can purchase to skip the line. Premier Pass is a more expensive option. For example, it can be upwards of $300 per person at Magic Kingdom. You can skip the line for every attraction one time per day at any time that you want. Multi-pass, you have to select your rides and you'll be given a specific time that you can come back to ride it. You're limited to 3 attractions at a time. Premier Pass is different in that it's a lot more expensive and you can skip the line on any attraction whenever you want to. You don't have to book a specific time to ride it. The top level option for line skipping is going to be a VIP tour if you want to book those. Those typically run between $450 and $900 per hour with a minimum of 7 hours. It's obviously the most expensive, most exclusive, and most custom option at Walt Disney World in terms of line skipping services. You can book multi-pass, Premier Pass, and single Lightning Lanes 7 days in advance if you're staying on site at a Walt Disney World resort, or you can book 3 days in advance if you're staying off site. This is another huge advantage for staying on site at a Walt Disney World property, because if you want to book Slinky Dog Dash, for example, a very popular attraction, at 7 days it'll be available for some periods of your vacation, but at 3 days, if you're an off-site guest, most likely Slinky Dog Dash will not be available on multi-pass. Step 6 is probably the most overlooked for families that are booking Walt Disney World vacation, and it's to book your transportation and stroller. You want to make sure that you have transportation booked from the airport to your Walt Disney World resort, because once you get on site at Walt Disney World, they have transportation anywhere that you'd want to go on Disney property available for free. So all you need to do is book an Uber, a Lyft, private transportation, or Mears, which is a coach-style bus from the airport to your resort and back again. You also want to consider renting a stroller. The most important thing I can tell you when it comes to renting a stroller is do not rent one from Walt Disney World. They're not allowed to leave the parks. They're plastic, they're hard, they're uncomfortable, they're altogether terrible, and they're also very expensive. You can rent them from an off-site partner of Walt Disney World called Scooterbug, and they have great single and double strollers, including jogging strollers that are fantastic. Because Scooterbug is a partner of Walt Disney World, they will deliver it to Bell Services at your resort, and then you can just pick it up and then you can drop it off there when you're leaving. If you use a different vendor, like Kingdom Strollers, for example, is another vendor that I've used that I would recommend. You actually have to meet the driver when they deliver and drop it off, and you have to meet them when they come to pick it up as well. The pricing is very similar. They're all great services, all great strollers. Highly recommend them. Just make sure that you don't rent one from Walt Disney World. And your final step 7 is going to be to create a loose and flexible itinerary. I like to tell my clients to set 3 attractions, 1 show or character meet, and then 1 dining reservation each day of their Disney vacation, as their priorities for the day. That way you set expectations at a reasonable level, you know you're gonna have a great trip, and you know you can accomplish what you set out to do. Anything above that is an absolute bonus. You're obviously more likely to get more attractions done if you use line skipping services, or if you have a general rope dropping strategy, which we can get into in different videos. But the most important thing is that if you set a reasonable expectation for you and your family, you're gonna have an awesome Walt Disney World vacation. And there you have it. You've planned your Walt Disney World vacation in 7 simple steps. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you'd like to work with me to plan your next Walt Disney World vacation, the link to get a quote are going to be in the description of this video. Click or tap the video on your screen that YouTube thinks you're going to love, and I look forward to seeing you and your family in the parks.